So today I'm going to talk a little bit about a crash course on IntelliJ IDEA. So the first step is to download it. Of course, you can type in Google IntelliJ download, and then it'll take you straight to the page. You will see that there's download for the three major platforms here. If you have access to the Ultimate, you download the Ultimate. If not, the community, you can download that as well. If for any reason you need to download a different version, you can go to the solutions here, and you can look for educational tools or other tools, learning tools. There's other shapes and forms of IntelliJ IDEA. However, the thing about IntelliJ is that you can add modules to it and convert it into whatever version you want. In my case, I already downloaded and then installed IntelliJ IDEA community version. So let's see how that one works. So when you open it up, you're going to get a screen like this. In my case, I have two projects. So if you don't have any projects, this is empty, and you have like a little plus sign to add a new project. So let's create a new project and let's see the basic functionality of IntelliJ IDEA. You click on a new project, you're going to see the Java version you're targeting up here, right? If there are any additional modules at this point, let's say no, and just click next. Next, you want to create a project from template? No, not really, so next. Then in my new project, I will have to give it a name. So I'm going to say my first project, and it's saving in some location. You can change the location with this button, just like so, and then just go to loop through your files and whatnot. In this case, I'm just going to save it there, my project. Okay, I'm going to finish that. So the project directory, if you put a folder that doesn't exist, it asks you whether you want to create it. You say yes, and then here's the interface, right? So here's the IntelliJ IDEA. I'm going to expand this a little bit to use as much of the real estate as I can. Okay. So let's create our first project. I chose Java as my language. So my project starts here. Here's the structure of the project. There's this tab on the side that I can hide or put the project there. You can look at the structure of the project if I have module dependencies and whatnot. In time, you're gonna use those features more and more. But right now, we just want to quickly go to and create a Java project. So in my project, I'll click here, and then you see that there's an IDEA directory. We're going to leave that alone, and there's a source folder. In the source folder, and then there's another project file there. In the source folder is when we right-click, and we can say new Java class, for example, if that's what I want to do. My Java class is going to be a class, not an interface, enumeration, annotation, but a class, and the class can be called, for example, my first class. And in my first class, I'm going to code something really simple. I'm going to have a variable, for example, integer a, and then I'm going to have a little function, a little method here. So public int transform, and then that takes an integer a, and what this function transform is going to do is it's going to return a times 3 plus 4, for example. I don't know, some transformation. Then I'm going to have a public static void main string, right? The typical main signature for Java. This is the method that first will execute in the class, and I can say something like my first class mfc equals new my first class. Then I'm going to say mfc.a equals mfc.transform 7 semicolon. As you can see, this gives you a little bit of an aid, right? So parameter a there, you can barely see it, is this parameter a up here, and it's receiving the value of 7. then semicolon, and then I'm going to do system.out.println transforming a, and then mfc.a. So this is a very short program. If I want to execute that, right, I can do one of several things. So the easiest thing, the first time you run a program, you can have in this source file, you can have multiple classes. Pick the one that you want to run first, the one that originates everything else. Right click on it and say run. And then it runs, and you can see that it says, you know, transforming a 25. So it runs. Now, if I want to add something else here, for example, mfc.a equals mfc.transform mfc.a, right? So I'm going to put that number in there and transform it, right? I add a new line. If I want to test this again, now I have this configured up here, so I can just hit the play button. And you can see that after that runs, it says, you know, transforming a 79. Let's say I add a lot of lines in here. Well, I can save this and exit. Let's say that we can add, that I add a lot of lines here and I lost track. It's like, why is it 79? What I can do is start debugging this problem line by line. So I'm going to start debugging right here, for example. I just click between the line number and the margin, and that gives me a red dot that highlights the line, right? And now what I want to do is to trace it. So instead of hitting that play button, I'm going to go to the next one, which is like a little insect, and I'm going to say debug my first class. So as you can see, this compiles the program, but then it starts running it line by line. So it goes to the main program first, right? So it says it's running main. It went to my first class and it created my first class, and the variable name is MFC. And as you can see here, MFC is my first class, and you can expand it. Now A is by default 0 because it's an integer and it's a member variable, right? So A is a 0, gets initialized to a 0. And then because I am using here in this line MFC.A, MFC.A is 0. So I'm looking at that variable. This is a pair of classes. Also, I can see the two-string representation of MFC here and the value of A. All right, so I'm really good. A is 0, and it's going to go in here, and it's going to go into the MFC transform. Now, to the MFC transform, I'm going to pass 7. So let's see how that's done. With this button here, I can skip to the next line, or I can, with this one, step into, I can go into this function. So let's go into the function and trace it. As you can see, the pointer moves into this function here, right? And it tells me after the transformation, A is 7. Okay? So A is 7 coming into the function. So it's going to do 7 times 3 plus 4. So I'm not going to step into because there's nothing to go into here. I'm just going to step over. So go to the next line. So it returned this, right? It came back here. It came back to where I put it in there. But it did the calculation and it returned that. Now it's going to do the assignment. It's going to put whatever happened in this transform function, is going to put it in mfc.a when I stepped to the next line. That's step over. So as you can see now, A is 25. All right? Now, I'm going to do the transform here. Okay, I can again step into and see what happens. In this case, A here is 25. Remember, these are different. This A is this parameter, okay? This A is still 25 and it's that guy. So we step over. Now look at this. So mfc.a is still 25. Now I'm going to assign something. Oh, and I assigned 79. This is where 79 is coming from. Right? It happens here. Before that it was 25. That can be useful information for me. And then what happens, I can just either, because this is just a system printout, I might want to debug it, or I might want to just continue running the program as usual with this, resume the program with this little arrow here, with this little play button. So I'm just going to resume the program. If I want to see the output, I can click on this run here, right? And this is the debug window, okay? So this is a really quick run on how to run your first program and debug a program in IntelliJ. If you have multiple classes, going from place to place or going into functions will take you to those classes line by line. I hope you like this video. In the next video, we're going to talk about things like version control.